Greetings everyone, and welcome back to our channel. With the holiday season upon us, a question that often arises is Christmas a pagan tradition? Today, we're going to take a deep dive into this intriguing topic and explore the origins of Christmas, examining both the date of December 25th and the customs we associate with this festive time of year. Let's start with the date, December 25th. Many argue that Christians adopted this date from the Roman pagan festival of Sol Invictus, or the birth of the unconquered sun, which was instituted by Emperor Aurelian in 274 AD. The claim is that early Christians chose this date to co-opt a popular pagan festival for their own purposes. But is that really the case? Interestingly, historical evidence suggests that December 25th was already significant to Christians before Emperor Aurelian's festival. Early Christians were deeply invested in determining the exact dates of Jesus' death and resurrection, as these were pivotal events for their faith. In doing so, they also sought to calculate the date of his birth. One key concept they employed was the integral age of Jewish prophets, the belief that prophets died on the same date as their birth or conception. Applying this to Jesus, in the Western Church, it was believed that Jesus was conceived and crucified on March 25th. Adding 9 months for the pregnancy brought them to December 25th as the date of his birth. In the Eastern Church, they held that Jesus' conception and crucifixion occurred on April 6th, leading to a birth date of January 6th. These calculations were made well before the establishment of the Sol Invictus festival. Moreover, early Christian writers provide evidence for these dates. Hippolytus of Rome, 170 to 240 AD, referenced December 25th as the date of Jesus' birth in his commentary on Daniel. Clement of Alexandria, circa 150 to 215 AD, mentioned January 6th as the date of Jesus' birth. Both of these references predate Emperor Aurelian's festival, indicating that the December 25th date was rooted in early Christian tradition, not borrowed from pagan celebrations. Now, let's talk about the practices associated with Christmas. It's true that some customs, like decorating evergreen trees, hanging wreaths, and even certain aspects of gift-giving, have parallels in ancient pagan traditions. So, does this mean that engaging in these practices is adopting paganism? To answer that, we need to delve into the biblical perspective on using cultural symbols. In the Bible, particularly the Old Testament, we see that the intent behind using certain objects is crucial. For example, the cherubim on the Ark of the Covenant. God commanded the Israelites to create images of heavenly beings for the tabernacle. These were not objects of worship but served as symbolic reminders of God's presence. Sacred trees and standing stones. Patriarchs like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob set up stones or planted trees to commemorate divine encounters. These acts weren't idolatrous because the objects weren't worshipped. They were markers pointing to God's actions. The key takeaway here is intent. Idolatry involves the worship of an object or symbol in place of God. Simply using a symbol that might have been used in another context doesn't equate to idolatry if there's no intent to worship it. So when we bring a Christmas tree into our homes today, it's not about venerating the tree itself. For many Christians, it's a festive symbol that points to the joy of Jesus' birth. A celebration of the light coming into the world, evergreen symbolizing eternal life. However, it's important to be mindful. If certain traditions cause confusion or lead others to stumble in their faith, we might consider adapting our practices out of love and respect for them. The Apostle Paul talks about this principle of being sensitive to others' consciences in matters of personal conviction. Throughout history, Christians have also engaged with and transformed cultural symbols to communicate the gospel effectively. Consider the example of Norse mythology. Odin, a central figure in Norse myths, is depicted as hanging on a tree to gain wisdom, paralleling the image of Christ on the cross. Early Christian missionaries used these familiar stories to explain Christian truths to the Norse people, not to adopt pagan worship, but to reveal the fulfillment of their deepest longings and stories in the person of Jesus Christ. In essence, Christmas can be seen as a time when Christians have historically taken what is familiar in culture and used it to point to the extraordinary truth of God's love manifested in Jesus. So, is Christmas a pagan tradition? Based on historical evidence, the answer is no. The date of December 25th has roots in early Christian efforts to honor significant events in Jesus' life. While some customs have similarities to cultural practices of the past, their meaning in Christian worship today depends on our intent and focus. The heart of Christmas is about celebrating the birth of Jesus, the incredible gift of God coming to dwell among us. As we enjoy this festive season, let's keep our hearts centered on what truly matters. Let's embrace traditions that honor God and foster love, joy, and peace in our communities. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive. If you found this enlightening, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Merry Christmas, and may you experience the true joy of the season.